Good morning, y'all. This is Brett, and welcome to my backyard. Today, I want to talk to you about growing bigger and better plants and more of them. Here before us, I have some eggplants. These are of the Black Beauty variety. Now, a lot of y'all know a little bit about eggplants. They are a nightshade, just like your tomatoes are and your potatoes, but they're also a member of the Solanaceae family. Peppers fall into this one as well. And one thing about this family is that they are able to grow roots from anywhere on the stem. You may have seen my other video about planting tomatoes deeper to make a more solid base, a bigger area for them to suck up nutrients, more stable for them to be able to carry a big heavy plant like a tomato. And these eggplants here and peppers are also similar in that way. And one thing I've been experiencing a lot this year is my compost pile that I've been working on over the past year. As I've been getting things up, I've been finding a lot of these tomatoes, because we do eat a lot of tomatoes, and sometimes we just throw the seeds out. We don't save all our seeds, but you can see here, just while I was going about planting, this is one that's sprung up out of some of that compost. And so I just pulled it and stuck it in a little cup of water for later here so I can plant. And also, we've been working on pruning our tomatoes. I did a video the other day about how to prune our tomatoes, which helps in many different ways, such as preventing disease, allowing more airflow in there. But some of these prunings that we get from these plants also, we can take and multiply in this way to help produce more plants. Now, these eggplants, I started these from seeds here, as I did a lot of my tomatoes, but sometimes we don't have enough room to start large quantities of plants to start the season, and that's okay. We only have to start with a couple, and like I mentioned, sometimes we can start with one tomato, and as it grows, we can take some clippings from it and be able to get to the same result. These peppers and these eggplants are the same way. Now, as these seeds start to come up, if you did plant them from seed, which I did these, you'll notice I planted a couple into each container. Sometimes people plant more. And then when we get to this stage, we often wonder, you can see these are ready to go. They got roots hanging out the bottom there. And when we get to this stage, we know we need to thin these out, because having them this close together, they're not going to be able to grow up into big, strong plants. They're going to get overcrowded, and we don't want to have that. But sometimes we don't want to get rid of these other little seedlings. And so this is what I'm doing today, is after they get going, my eggplants, tomatoes, my peppers, I do this same technique on all of them, that I like to split these seedlings up and plant them out into single containers like you see here. I'm going to let them grow a little bit more to get more established for when I plant them. And so that allows me to separate them, to have them singularly produce a stronger root base, and then I'll be able to set them out individually rather than having to just trim and throw away or something like that on these eggplants. And a lot of these plants, we want to be careful enough with them not to tear up the stem. But as you can see, you don't have to be too careful with them. We just want to try to keep that root system mostly intact. But this technique works for all of these types of plants. These eggplants, the same as that video I made the other day about the tomatoes and planting them deeper. You'll notice they very quickly come up with a very good root system here. But we want to make that even stronger. And so we can plant these on this stem section here the same way as we do our tomatoes and our peppers. And so I prepared these, just loosely filled these containers here with some of my soil. I'll take, this is just a chainsaw tool here. You can use a number 2 pencil like you had in grade school, or a stick, any little thing you've got. Most of the time you see that loose soil, I just want to make a little hole there in that loose soil to be able to put this plant down into. Like I said, we want to be a little careful, but these are not, it's not our children. We don't have to keep them from bumping too hard. We just want to get most of that root system kind of going down in the hole. Press it in here, just being careful enough not to break that stem, because we want that stem to also grow into a good support structure as well. And then I'm just taking some of that soil I started out with, and I'm gonna fill in around there until I've got it up to a level like these are here too. I'm trying to keep it about where that first set of leaves comes out there. It can go a little bit more. We don't want to bury it up past the fruiting part of the eggplant here. But this little tomato plant, you'll be able to see a lot better than you could on that one. But once again, if I can get in close enough, you might be able to see them little hairs on this tomato. That is actually little roots growing all the way up. And so the same thing, you know, not just our little seedlings or these little seedlings that we find all over our yard, but even those little offshoots here. When this one gets a little bigger, you'll be able to see some little offshoots. Most people call them suckers. Good name for them, because they suck all the energy into more leaf growth from your plants. And so we remove them little suckers a lot of times, especially when the plant's getting first started. We may leave them on after the plant is producing fruit in our determinate varieties. But we can take these and produce more plants out of them. And so if we keep doing this, we can keep making more and more. We can do succession plantings with these, because see, then I'll have a tomato plant to go out with in a few weeks, so that when our earlier set is producing its fruit, I'll have one coming in behind it, hopefully keeping our production season a lot longer. And we can even take these and take cuttings off of them later in the year, because whenever we get to our cooler season this fall and the production dies down and they kind of stop producing, but we want to maybe try to, in our greenhouse or maybe even indoors in our living room, keep a tomato or something like that producing all winter long, we can take these cuttings and produce them at that time, putting them into a warmer environment, keeping that production going without having to bring our big plants inside, because some of my tomatoes are in tubs that I'd have to have a forklift to lift them up, so that's not a good option there. But just that little bit of help. You can see here's one I just did a few days ago, and you can already see how much stronger that plant is looking like. It's already getting some roots coming to the bottom of this one, so we're gonna have to probably transplant it again soon. It can either go into a larger pot or out into the garden. Here's one that was several days ahead of that one, and you can see it doesn't take long. I don't know if I can get all this into the picture, but that difference right there in just a few days, what the difference can be. And this one, it's about to that size. It's about to get some of them suckers going. But any of them suckers, some of these stems here, because my other video talks about pruning these, I'm going to be later trimming, either trimming these because I'm going to be planting it deep, or trimming these after it's planted, getting all of these stems here below that fruiting section off to prevent disease. I'll be able to more easily see my pest, like in our area, that tobacco hornworm that likes to grow up and gnaw on our tomatoes. Be able to see them and get them out of there, let that air flow in. One good rule of thumb when we're trimming, we never want to remove more than probably a third of the plant at a time. We want to keep some of this up top, especially that'll be important when it gets to them warmer weather months. That sun, if you've ever had direct sun on your tomatoes, it can cause some damage, and so we need to keep some shade. The tomato plant itself provides some shade for them tomatoes as it gets warmer into the season. And so that's what I have for y'all today. I hope y'all have enjoyed that little video about how to make more plants out of the plants we already have. This will help us save money and time. especially, growing from seed, getting to this stage takes a little time, whereas these little trimmings, we can get there a lot faster. So I hope y'all enjoyed that. If you did, please be sure and subscribe, hit the like, leave me a comment below, and be sure and share it with your friends. We'll catch y'all next time.